Alright, what's up Facebook? What's up Instagram? Thought I'd go live today, my weekly Sunday. It's just become a kind of a routine weekly Sunday thing. It just seems like it's the only time I have free time to sit and actually do things for myself, but also for you, because it is my time, my energy, and it's, what I do. So today, I've got this cool topic of Discernment 101, which I've had these before, but I'm going to do it again. Discernment 101, because where you are now is very a crucial but vulnerable time for you as an American, as a patriot, as a Republican, and as a conservative. But more importantly, again, really removing those titles and just putting American and patriot down. Someone who loves America for her foundation, where she originated, where she came from, obviously. And, Sunday is a perfect day because being a Christian, I try not to talk too much about God in the Bible because there's a lot of God in mouth only. I have a friend, a Marine Corps friend, that calls them Genos, God in mouth only. But, they don't, it's that Geno, God in name only. So they use his name only out of their mouth. So, Geno. And so, I don't use it a whole lot. And because I don't want to use God as a crutch. And a lot of people do that. God is a ever-walking presence every single day. You're supposed to walk and talk fluently with God, in God, and His Son, Christ, who's the mediator to Him. Real simple. And a lot of Americans get too much into kind of like people like flat earth, round earth. You sitting here arguing about something that really doesn't matter. And Christians really are the worst in another manner, the ones that are in name only, because they cherry pick too much. They take things from the Bible and they try to apply it kind of like a Build-A-Bear society versus, hey, do unto others, mind your own business, clean up your own backyard. If you'll do those things, everybody else will start coming around because they'll go, man, I want to be like that. They do unto others, they mind their own business, and they clean up their own backyard. You do it by walking it. Faith, respect, those things are words that are actions. They're not words. You see people all over the internet. They disrespected me. They don't even know what respect means. And it's not a word that you speak. It is simply an action. So if someone's constantly disrespecting you, then you're the problem for allowing that in your life. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, are the wolves in sheep's clothing. Because right now you all are in a vulnerable position. And I still hear it and I understand it. It's a good thing. It's not a good thing that you're still there, but this is not a bad thing what I'm going to discuss. And it's just simple what you allow in your life. You allow it there. So you're in a vulnerable position because what's taking place is a divine operation. It is heavenly. It is God sent. It is a clean out of the world, clean out of corruption, clean out of fraud, clean out of that. But the ones you really have to really home in on are the ones who sound just like people who are actually doing good, part of the operation, etc. You got to listen and be able to find that little bitty hiccup of the people who think and act like you but really aren't. And a lot of people in my inbox are saying, I'm so confused, I don't know who to listen to, I don't know what to believe. You have to wipe your foundation. You have to divorce your emotions and your feelings. Put those aside for a moment. And go, okay, why am I here? Why am I on this live feed listening to this guy talk? Why do I come here when he goes live? Why do I watch his videos? You have to ask yourself, why are you here? You're here because of a man who was divinely called by God in a special operation that is outlined in current laws and orders. That's why you're here. The only reason you're here. You're not here because of me and me, myself, and me and only myself. You're here because I empower people to see the blueprint of what's been put into place divinely. Also, who are the commanders of that divine blueprint. And then, again, it's an operation. It's a clean out of fraud, corruption, etc. all over the world. Not just DC, not just America. That's why you're here. So you have to identify the swamp. And when you identify the swamp, then you've got to decide what side of the aisle do you want to be on. As Elon Musk says, you're at a crossroads of civilization. It's real simple. This is not a Democrat versus Republican. It's not conservative versus liberal. I use liberals a lot because they're the ones really losing their minds over here. You have to use some things, but it depends on the context. But in all reality, the grand mission, the grand goal is to eliminate all of these names and titles and these things that pin you up against each other. The old swamp, they pinned every American against our core values: race, religion, and or faith. Race, religion, faith, and patriotism. They pinned us against each other on our core values. And the worst ones are the ones that sound and look like you and I. Those are the worst ones. Those are the ones you have to, sometimes there's this one little tiny discrepancy that you pick up and go, you wouldn't be saying that. You wouldn't be doing that if you were really on the good side. And a lot of Americans are in a position now, because we're in a world of technology. You got to, one, know when to use your First Amendment now. When you get on a podcast and or a post, the more you like it, the more you share it, the more you comment on it, that post becomes visible. And some of these people know that. So they're using drama and propaganda and surface level nonsense because they don't care. They know the more people comment on it, it runs up their numbers and makes it more visible for them to pull in more people with their garbage and their bullcrap. For what? Ulterior motives. Money, fame, notoriety, status, etc. You have that authority and power not to do so. Then you got to be able to separate the difference. It's like I've told people I go on podcasts with, I'm like, look, when I say this out here to the public, I'm not knocking you as a person. However, I didn't start a profile and accounts to have a podcast. I was living my life daily trying to help friends and family around in my community, basically, if you will, my community, my town, neighbors as they call it. I was showing people, hey, this is what's going on right here. Here's the law that's in place right now. This is what the meat of the program is. Here it is right here. You're hung up on all of this over here. You're looking at stuff that's meant to get people who can't know this, don't want to know this, or may not can see this initially, maybe not have someone like me in your life to show you this, and they don't know where to look. Here's what's going on. And once you know, it's like the Bible says, once you've heard one time, it's up to you. So I was living a normal life, retired veteran, simple life. I already had the Billboard hits and country music, but once I learned the secrets of that, I was like, woo, man, all those years built up, and then you find out the secret, and it just completely, it's a complete, like, just dead stop. So I was living my life and going, man, we're in a bigger thing than just my daily life. We're in a bigger thing than just little bitty. This is a special operation, right? It's bigger. And they knew that people would wake up. They also knew people like veterans would see what's going on, and then they could recruit them. All right? And that's what's taking place. Because again, if you're doing what's right from the start and you're doing what's right in the middle, you wouldn't have to worry about remembering something and or defending like, oh, well, here's why President Trump gave me a nickname. No, we know why he gave you a nickname. Because you weren't doing right from the start. You weren't doing right in the middle, and you were deceiving people out there. Deceiving people. So that's where you are right now. And you're all going to benefit from this movement. You're all going to benefit from this operation. Everybody's going to benefit from it. And a lot of these liberals out there are going to turn. They're going to be like me when I found out how Billboard and country music works, they're going to be the same way. They're going to be like, it's just going to be a hard stop. Bam, right in the face. Especially the more liberals that turn and come over and support President Trump, which is all an operation. You've already seen Zuckerberg. You've already seen Bezos. You've already seen all these people turn. Tim Cook, Apple. You've seen all these people turn. The more those turn, the liberals won't have any more heroes, and they're going to be faced with that reality. Well, all of you conservatives and Republicans by name for all your life, you have a reality to face as well. You can't just love and support President Trump and be all good and gravy and just vote at the voter box. No, you need to be able to discern all the people who lip service, who look and sound the part, but back here they have ulterior motives. That is how we maintain and sustain the draining of a swamp. You're not a part of draining the swamp in the sense of the operation. You are from the standpoint of when President Trump said we're giving the power back to the people, you are that power. You are the very ones who gave me a #1 bestseller. You did that. You allowed that in your life, and you read that, and you applied that. So therefore, all of you who did that, you did it. I didn't do it. You did that. But that's called empowerment. Because I gave you receipts of something that I didn't write or pass. This is all laws and orders that are put into place, unique and special for the special operation of what's taking place. So that's why I get upset when I see podcasters out there. Some I've met and know, and all they're doing still are little 3 and 5 minute videos and little excerpts of drama, propaganda, and stuff that only attach you emotionally and attach you with a feeling. It's not empowering you to know what's going on. It's not empowering and uplifting your First Amendment. All it does is keep you in a rigmarole, a cycle, again, like a hamster in a wheel, and it keeps your emotions all rattled and upset, and you're, blah, blah. You want to get in the comment box, I can't believe they said this, blah, blah, blah. And none of the people in the video are ever going to see that. And they're not going to care, for one. All right? They're not going to see it, one, and then they're not going to care, two. You're just in this rigmarole. And it's like I said, I tell podcasters that I know, no offense, homie, but that old saying, if you build it, they'll come, that needs to be dissected now. Why are you building it? What are you building it for? What are your motives? What are your intent? What are you doing for people? Are you providing them with receipts? Most of them aren't. So see, once someone ever hears me, once someone ever reads the blueprint that commanders put in charge, put in place, put in the strategic plan and operation, it's game over. Because again, the whole point of this whole operation is to drain the swamp, effectively and efficiently maintain and sustain it. So every one of you who claim to be a President Trump supporter, claim to be a patriot, claim to be, which again, toss out Republican, conservative, you should be an American right now, focused on saving America. If you're that, then you should want to get rid of what all took place before 2016. Fake news. Fake news doesn't just mean that, it's someone that's against your views. Like if you are a Republican, then it don't mean that fake news is only what liberals say. No, it's what and who are attached to maybe money laundering or money fraud or trafficking or sex trafficking, drug trafficking, child trafficking. There's multiple people who are surface level lip people who are on the other side, but also on the same side as you, who are in the background doing certain things. Now, you're not going to know the missions right now. You're not knowing the missions. I don't even tell the missions what's going on. But it's all public laws and orders. Everything I talk about is all public. But it's receipts. It's real facts. Now, I don't use the word facts anymore. And I don't use the word truth anymore, hardly, in conversation. Because those have been so diluted and so butchered and twisted. And because we're still in a place where podcasters, certain podcasters, what they call low-level hanging fruit, some of them are just low-level hanging fruit, that they're not at attention of President Trump. But also, there's a problem, right? If you go in and you axe all these people out of nowhere, then what are they going to do? They're going to whine and complain that their First Amendment was taken from them. So see, there's like a cloud there. So the way to solve that without disrupting them that way is to say to you, the people, here's what's going on by laws and orders. Here's what you're watching. If you love the military, you will love them even more because it's all special operations. It's unconventional warfare for a reason. It's irregular warfare for a reason. It's not meant to be conventional. It's not meant to be right out in the public for everyone to see, because you would have a good portion of that public doing what? Getting in the way of what needs to happen. And a lot of it is unfortunate. Yes, there's going to be casualties. Yes, there's going to be certain things. But again, if no one ever had the guts and the audacity and the tenacity and the resilience to put a line in the sand and say enough's enough, we're going to do this, we got to do this, or it's going to be a million times worse, then what? Again, you would have what? There'd be all kinds of catastrophic events happening everywhere. Because we've had people who are incompetent, who can't even tie a Velcro shoe correctly, been running the government all these years, and they've been running it right on into the ground. And it was a snowball headed for hell. So there's a group of people that says, we know how to fix it. It's a man-made system, and it was destroyed by evil men. Real simple. You don't have to tear the whole system down. You can go in and go, okay, the company is supposed to be doing this. That machine's supposed to be doing that. And it's supposed to put out this product. You don't go in and wipe out the whole system and wipe out the machine. You don't go in and fire people instantly. You go in there and figure out, okay, how do we meet our productivity? That machine is supposed to do this, this, and this in this certain time. And it's supposed to put out this product to be out here and be delivered to this customer. So it's the same thing. The government's the same way. We've gotten that big that you can't all of a sudden go in there and say, hey, everybody, we're going in an operation. All the enemy, go flee, go hide, like the past. So you have to decide, do you want everything from the past? Because what most of you, not those who follow me, but the people who hear this later, what most of you are still clicking on are the same kind of people, the same style, the same structure as what you had before 2016. Therefore, again, you have to empower yourself. You have to learn how technology works on top of what you're listening to. You got double discernment now. You got to know how the internet works, know how apps work, know how they function and operate, and know what you're doing is only aiding to someone who probably has an ulterior motive. Because if they didn't, they would seek to know how President Trump and military and joint partners all around the world have pulled this off. Because then you have to go back and revert to, okay, so why didn't Ronald Reagan do this? Now we put aside what everybody, the Bushes, but let's just say the Bushes would have not had issues, right? Let's just say that. And go, okay, why didn't the Bushes do this? Why didn't Ronald Reagan do this? Now, you don't have to go too far back, because Nixon got railroaded with Watergate, and Watergate and the Ukraine phone call, Same setup. All right. So you don't have to go too far back. Where it really railroaded. Where it really railroaded was JFK. Not him, but we know November 22nd, 1963. From that moment forward, what took place in 1968 with the Unified Budget Act, leaving the gold standard, moving forward, it's not been that long ago, ladies and gentlemen. Everything really derailed. So the swamp, Muscle Shoals, is no longer the place that has swampers. All right? All pun intended. Probably a cheesy joke, but it works. So wolves in sheep's clothing. You empower yourself. And the other thing is when you see people attacking people out there. I've been under a few ankle biters lately. They're nothing real major. They're just a bunch of ankle biters who want attention. And that's why you got to figure out which ones you're going to give attention to, which ones you're going to pick battles with, etc. Because if you give them too much attention, then they're like, oh, Jonhson replied to me. No, I've been doing it recently to a couple people for one reason. Their motives are to confuse you. They're to deceive you. They're to pull you over and make you go, now wait, I have been reading, I have been studying, but maybe, maybe. Because every single day I'm validated somehow, some way with President Trump. Not always directly, it's mainly indirectly. And it's not about me, it's not about him validating me. It's about him validating what is going on that I do read and study. And God gave me the ability and the capabilities of the capacity to be able to put all this together at one time in one sitting without throwing you crumbs daily like a lot of these people do. They just throw you crumbs and then you do what? You turn off your phone, or maybe not turn it off, but you put it away and then you come back the next day. Just like a little bird in a nest. Just throw me a crumb today. You don't need that in your life. When there's a blueprint of everything that's going on, you don't need any crumbs. It's also how you empower yourself and take control of your life to free up your life even more. You don't need 100 podcasts a day. You don't need 100 posts a day. You don't need that. What you need is to be able to empower yourself to know what's being used by the people that are showing you. They're showing you that, meaning like they're displaying their fruits daily. It's good fruits. They're cleaning out the laundering. They're cleaning out the waste. They're taking out all these. They're displaying their fruits daily. So that's how you trust the receipts and trust the information. Because you have visuals of that. And it's only going to help your bank account. It's only going to help eliminate taxes. It's only going to help empower and enrich you the right way, not the wrong ways. So you have to listen, not hear. And if you want to free up your life, this is how you do it. Because you should have a free up life. Every single one of you put so much time in on the phone, in on podcasts. And to this day, I had an email the other day and I wrote back and I said, with all due respect, because text messages, posts sometimes, and emails don't deliver emotions and tones. So see, a lot of people take a text message, an email. Think about all your relationships that's been ruined. Friends, family, co-workers. Think about all of what we became. Text messages have no tone, no emotions to them. So, again, it depends on how well you know somebody to know did they mean the text or the email that way. So when you think about that, again, so I said, with all due respect, there's no new material. What is going on right now as we speak with President Trump is not new material. Now there's some new operations from the standpoint of they're making it more visual of the phase. But the foundational orders that are operating the military were put into place December the 20th, 2019 in Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. It's the last amendment to the War Powers Act. All right. And that clause in there, under that, the clause that I always read on my podcast, that one little paragraph there, explains what's going on. Then that means you got to know someone who knows where to go find those orders, executive orders That's a foundational order. That's not an executive order. That Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 is not an executive order. That's a foundational order that is in the War and National Defense booklet under Chapter 33, which is the War Powers Resolution Act of 1973. That section is in that. That's not an executive order. That's your foundational order. That's a joint order. That's Congress and the President. Secretary of Defense as well. So then you go look at the executive orders. All right. So when you see people out there attacking someone that claims to be a President Trump supporter, they claim to be a President Trump supporter, they claim to be a Republican, claim to be a conservative, and they're attacking someone like me, you know to stay away from them because they have no clue what's going on, and they're only doing it to confuse you, to upset you, and to put that little wedge in there for an ulterior motive. It doesn't matter what the motive is. It don't even matter if they're dumb as a cement block. It doesn't matter. It's how you know to stay away from it. That is not a part of the operation whatsoever. So if you're that person who thinks, well, what is that a part of the operation? No, it's not. The operation, military don't play on your emotions. It's not to play on your emotions. Now, you can get scared at something you might read because you don't maybe know what the meat of the topic is, and if you just read it on the surface and or you see something happen out there, you can get scared. That's an emotion and a feeling. However, military don't do things to scare you. So that's your discernment. You got to figure out. Military don't sit around and go, let's devise a plan that's going to scare the ever-living crap out of Susie and Elaine and Ruthie and all. We don't do that. That's not how that operates. So the military wouldn't sit and go, okay, you go say this on your podcast and you go against this person for saying this, and this, and that, and that, and that. And then you rebuttal with this. That ain't how it works, ladies and gentlemen. Not at all. So when you see people attacking, it's either they have the lack of IQ and the comprehension skills. And unfortunately, you go to Google, data shows that. Data shows that 54% of Americans read and comprehend at a 6th grade education and below. So you have to have the authority and the power to go discern. Once you've ever seen me and someone like that, then you got to go, okay, this guy shows all the laws and orders. I may not be able to comprehend them all myself, but he shows laws and orders. These people don't. And if they did, and it's butchered and twisted, like someone recently said, the United States is not a corporation. Well, why does 28 U.S. Code Section 3002 say United States Federal Corporation? Once you see that, anything else they say after that is probably, I'm going to try not to say the S word today, unless I'm quoting it. That's all you need to know. So that's not a part of the operation. Pinning people against each other to confuse you is not a part of the operation. Mark that down. The Bible, President Trump's been called by God. He's like our modern day Cyrus. Someone had to be that face. Someone had to be in that position. It's President Trump. All right. God himself tells you, he tells you in his word, I think it's 1 Corinthians 14:33. It says, God is not the author of confusion. Now, if you're not a Christian and you don't believe in God, you don't believe in the Bible, then you can still, if you're a patriot, then you can still put this in context. If God is not the author of confusion, and if you believe with what your eyes have been seeing, all the corruption that's been uncovered, which I knew this was coming because that's what the laws and orders are doing. That's what the operation, the 45-47 is. It's all there. It's all a delay because a lot of Americans are like babies. They have to be treated like them. But there is a lot of information, and you couldn't all done this at one time, so it had to be rolled out like it's rolled out. But God himself is not the author of confusion. And if you're a patriot with all you've seen, you know that this is a biblical operation, because Reagan never did it. No Republican, no one, even outside of Republican, if you just love America, no one's ever tried this. So you're witnessing a unique time period, unique operations, unique actions that show you, no confusion. If you're taken up for evil, if you're taken up for people who attack, you're either still conditioned yourself or you're probably one of them. You don't have many options there. So again, it's not part of the operation. So let's move on to my next. I won't rattle too much on that, but I'll move on to my next point of discernment. So I screenshot stuff and I keep things just for the fun of it. That's why you probably don't want to mess with me. I have 37,000 photos in my phone. A lot of those are aircraft, and I could have a whole book on the aircraft alone. It would take forever to edit, but I may do it for the ones who really, really want it one day. But still, I save everything. So you want to be sure before you comment on anything of mine, especially if you're going to say something about me. you better make sure you want to stand on it, because I can assure you right now, I have nothing to hide. You see people out there saying stuff, I have nothing to hide. I'm not a hero, never claimed to be. I don't talk about military because, no, I didn't serve as long as some of these people in the comment box when they try to be trolls. Nobody cares about that. See, if some of these people would realize that you, the people, want empowerment, and it don't matter how you get it. If someone brings the receipts, you just want the receipts, right? That's what it's all about. So it doesn't matter when you wake up. You'll see people out there that oh, I've been awake for years. Okay, it's not a contest. It's about winning people over the same way as Billy Graham. My grandmother loved Billy Graham because Billy Graham was known for speaking to massive audiences. Sometimes, I don't know, up close to 1 million. But his own staff had to go find him, because when he walked off the stage talking to all those people and they were getting everything all broken down and the sound systems, etc., they couldn't find Billy. Well, Billy would be over on the street corner talking to one homeless person, just like he just spoke to those million. That's when you know the character of somebody. And every single one of you who have met me, the ones who have personally met me, you know for fact that I do that. Not because of that, but I just love people. And no agenda here. I'm your average, everyday American who did serve in the Army, nothing special, never claimed to be. You can't find a single podcast that says that. There was something that took place when I was in the Army that I can most definitely back up. But you don't have to have a long resume to know what's going on. You don't have to have a long DD-214 to know what's going on. Nothing like that. If you're that person, you are missing the point of draining the swamp. You are still conditioned if you think like that. Because, again, people don't care. People want receipts. People want to be able to put their eyes and ears on something that will empower them, enable them, and uplift them to go, man, if he can do it, I can do it. That is what we're here for. So again, when you think of God, if you are a Christian, think of the thief on the cross. And I've always sat and thought about that. I have a relative that recently passed away that 90% of my family, maybe more, I'd go with 95% of my family, outcast the guy. They talk bad about him. They have something to say about him. I mean, all kinds of things, all kinds of names. He just recently passed away at a young age. And I was asked to speak And I sat and thought about, now what will I say that's like middle ground, but also Christian-like, humble, etc. And it hit me what to say. God laid it on me what to say. I'm like, that thief on the cross, that was the end. The end. So he was a thief being persecuted and executed for being a thief. So that was the end for him. So if you believe in God, you believe in Christ, you believe in the Bible, then you have to believe when that thief looked at Christ on that cross and said, "You are the Son of God. You're the Son of Nineveh. You're the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Forgive me, God." And Christ looked up to God his Father and said, "Forgive him, for he knows not what he did." And looks back at the thief and says, "Be with me this day in paradise." Now, if that's true, if God is real, if Jesus Christ is real, if the Bible is real, and I'm correct in my beliefs, if that thief on the cross can acknowledge Jesus Christ at his end day, had lived his whole life as a thief, if he can acknowledge Jesus Christ, so it's not about what you think about people. That's why the Bible says, those without sin cast the first stone. Step up to the plate. Now, there's some people out there probably would because they're that evil, right? They'd do it. Some people would. So you'd have to figure out, do you commend them for having the guts to do it, or are they just evil? What I said that to say is that out of all of his troubles, if there was anybody, especially if you're a relative of someone who's gone on and done whatever, success, I hate the word, but if you want to use it. The last time I saw my relative, he said, "I'm so proud of you. I tell everybody you're my cousin." Now, if there's anybody who could have been jealous, looked at his life and thought, "Man, I wish I'd have made better decisions," could have been him. But in his last few weeks, he had asked Christ into his heart. And it's like the preacher said, if he meant that, like that thief on that cross meant that, who are you to judge? You can't. So therefore, that's why, again, if you do unto others, mind your own business and clean up your own backyard, think how quick the world would clean up just with those principles alone. Don't even have to get into laws and orders. Just go to straight up, simple principles, simple values of life. Just go to simplicity first. You don't have to get complicated. So it doesn't matter when people wake up. And it's not a contest of that. The reason why I say certain things I say is because when you do know, and you know the blueprint, and you see other people out there, and then you do have the capacity to remember certain names, and you see people who follow you over on that stuff, and you're like, how can they follow me and follow that? That's where you have to be tough. That's where the Bible is a big checks and balances. There's a lot of things you got to check and balance. There's a time to be this, and a time to be that, and a time to be this, and a time to be that. So a guy like me cares because I have the capacity and the ability to remember what I remember and know what I know. And not afraid to say it, and not afraid to be resilient, tenacity. I see a lot of stuff. And you got to be like John Wayne. You got to have the same, even though that was a character, but you got to have the same mindset as John Wayne with some of the stuff I've seen and heard. But it's part of it, baby. And again, you will never be criticized. You will never be criticized from people doing more than you. Never. Because they won't have time for it. So I bring up this one thing to say, I'm only using this just for the fun of it. Not going to say their full name. But there was a guy named Matt back in 2023. All right. Who put on one of my Instagram posts, or maybe in a Twitter, I can't remember, X, whatever. And it said, oh, if you'd have stayed in uniform longer, you'd know that continuity of government, continuity of operations have always existed. And I promise not to say the S word today in first person form, but you know what I talk about when I put the grin on my face, the crap eating grin? See, when people just go to something that they don't really know about, they've never known about, they just may know that, oh, a continuity of government, yeah, there's a plan for that. But they don't know how it's invoked, why it would be needed, the history of it, the origin of it, the foundation of it, what's it for, when does it go into effect, is it always in effect, does it have to be invoked, etc., etc. See, when people just want to be in the comment box, then you end up being a what? An example later. Because here we are, February 23rd, 2025. This person made this comment December 2023. And it said that. Well, first off, me being in uniform don't have anything to do with the continuity of government. Straight out the gate. Continuity of government is a federal. So that's on the government side. So nothing to do with military. Straight out the gate. It pairs with the military, but it's not a military term. It's a government term. And so you got to know the origin, the foundation of it. So if you go back to a continuity of government, guess when these things were established? Eisenhower. I guess that's why President Trump mentions Eisenhower all the time. Right? So if you go back to Eisenhower, see, there's that timeline I always give every one of you. There's a timeline. Now, we can go back to the Organic Act, 1871, 1878. Those are important. Those kicked off a little bit. But where the swamp really got deep was after November the 22nd, 1963. So when you go back and do your little timeline that I've done, I'm going to do a little rattle off of it. 1941, 1942. Well, we can really go back. Let's just go back to 29. 29 stock market. Crash. Depression, 1930s. Roosevelt comes in, Franklin Roosevelt. Has all these new deals. He got all of our grandparents, it would be my grandparents' age. He got all of my grandparents, those people. He got everybody buying into all these deals and these systems and these programs, right? Money, right? Putting their money in over here. Okay, your paycheck's $100 this month. Well, take $5 out, put it over here. And then take $3 out, put it in this one, and got them hooked on these programs, right? And it looked pretty, sounded pretty. Oh yeah, because my grandpa, maybe your grandpas, maybe your dads, maybe your uncles, whatever the time fits you, they were good people. They were men of their word. When they looked you in the eye and told you, hey, I'll be there at 10 a.m., they were there at 9:45 a.m. sharp. I've always heard from that generation of men, if you're 15 minutes early, you're late. I've always heard that from that group of men. If you're 15 minutes early, you're late. So, again, those people were the people who handshake, look you in the eye. But these people back here knew that, and they took advantage of that. So you had the 1941 and 42 War Powers Act, where a president can do certain things with the military without the consent of Congress together and or first. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to tell Congress this is what I did. All right. Then you had the Bretton Woods systems that paired everything. So then 1949, NATO was established. 1950, Korean War started. There's our first foreign war, all right, without it being a world war, but so here's when the war started. Korea, 1950-53. 1951, Congress put term limits on the president, but not themselves. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 does not say anything about that the president shouldn't serve beyond 2 terms. Roosevelt was in his 4th term when he died. 13th year of presidency, the start of his 4th term. He was elected by the people 4 different times. All right, so when you hear people say that's unconstitutional, no, it's not. It is not. The original Constitution doesn't say anything but a president is to serve 4 years in a term. It don't say how many terms. It also don't give Congress the authority to do so, to amend to ratify with the states that. Nowhere. So if you believe in the original Constitution, like you hear all these liberals out there saying that Trump is a violation of the Constitution, I don't think you've read the Constitution I've read. So 1951, 1955, Vietnam started. 1961, Dwight D. Eisenhower, former president, 5-star general, supreme commander of the world. Dwight D. Eisenhower had an industrial complex speech, military industrial complex. He did not like where the military was going because of this. Money, benefits. Look why soldiers serve. No wonder so many soldiers don't know anything about the military laws, military orders, military regulations, and how they pair with federal. Executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. No wonder so many veterans look the way they look. No wonder why so many veterans aren't stepping up to the plate with me and other veterans. No wonder. Because they don't even know the very laws and orders of what they served under, paired with federal law. So military is separate than federal. That's why the Military Justice Act of 2016 clarified that. Thank you, Obama. Thank you, Obama's Supreme Court. It wasn't Donald Trump's Supreme Court. That was Obama's Supreme Court who clarified that with the Military Justice Act of 2016. Clarified that military law is separate from federal. All right? Real simple stuff. Dwight D. Eisenhower established presidential emergency action documents that I talk about. Recently, in the last few years, there was a congressman, not Joe Biden congressman of 46 years. There was another congressman who had served like 36 years. He is on a mainstream article saying, I've been in the Senate for 36 years and I've never heard of a presidential emergency action document. There you go. See, there's somebody who was a legit congressperson. I'm pretty sure they were a senator. It may have been a House representative, but pretty sure it was a senator. 36-something years. Never heard of a presidential emergency action document. Now you want to know how deep the swamp really is and how incompetent they are? Has nothing to do with titles, years, experience, resume. Again. So, Eisenhower. The PEDs were established for a continuity government. So when there's a continuity government, there are 8 national essential functions of a COG. 8 national essential functions. To maintain a constitutional government, maintain the military, there's a few of them like that. So this dude that commented on my thing way back, this is why you want to be careful when you come over on my page where you do have comments. If you're going to be combative when you've never read anything, you never studied anything. This is why you want to be careful. Because again, Mr. Matt, whoever you are, now you look like an idiot. Now you look atrocious to the people who have read, who have studied, who have applied. Knowledge is not power again. It's the application of knowledge that's power. But you can't apply anything until you have the what? The plan, the blueprint, the verbiage, the language, the goods, as the saying is. So old Matt commenting, old Matt looks a little atrocious right now because on January the 19th, 2025, now I know that Joe Biden was a special operation, all right? But for people who don't know that yet, I can sit in a neutral seat and play devil's advocate. Now, forever on record, when you go to the federalregister.gov, the last executive order by Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., the last one that is pulled up in 2025, January the 19th, the revocation of Executive Order 13961. President Trump signed Executive Order 13961 December the 7th, 2020. It was the implementation of continuity of government, continuity of operations for the executive branch. And it talks about distribution to this for national essential. It says NES, but that's national essential functions. You can't revoke something, ladies and gentlemen, that hasn't already been invoked. So see, when you see old Matt's comment saying, oh, they've always existed. The plan has always existed. Needing the plan hasn't been invoked. A continuity of government is for a catastrophic event. So when you go and you understand the writ of habeas corpus and the suspension clause, which that's what that is, the suspension clause, Article 2, Section 9, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2 of the Constitution, when you go read that, it's the suspension clause. The president can suspend the Constitution for invasion or rebellion of public safety. All of that has taken place already. You're in a whole new phase. But see, what happens when you don't read, you don't study, you don't know the context, you don't know why you're even on the podcast. See, that's the stuff that you've got to empower yourself. So if you're still feeling confused, you're still feeling, like you don't know who to listen to and all this stuff, again, once you've heard me one time, you don't need anything else, because I teach the foundational blueprint. Once you get the foundational blueprint in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, in your countenance, once you get that there, then you can deviate, and because you'll have the ability to discern. If you just want to listen to something else, you'll be able to go, okay, all right, yeah, I like that. But you'll be able to discern, are these people for real? Are they surface level? What's their motives? What's their intent? Is it an ulterior thing? Etc. That's why I don't promote too many people. I'm careful with who I promote, because people will let you down. They let you down daily. All right. I don't promote. I don't share a lot of stuff. When I do go on podcasts, then that should prove to you that I'm going on that podcast because those people have proven themselves to my team. Those people do study, read, and know what's going on. All right. So, that. Now, the next phase of what I've written down. If executive orders don't mean anything, like you've seen some people out there do, so I'm helping you, those that are confused. One, there's no new material. Everything that you need to know is already in laws and orders. If executive orders don't mean what they mean, then the liberals wouldn't be losing their minds right now. All right? Because they definitely don't know. They have no idea what's going on. They can't tell a brick from a marble. All right? Because they're just too worried. Oh, they think their rights are being taken away from them. They think all these things that ain't actually happening. And if you would really listen to someone like me, I've even made some Christians mad, because I'm like, look, no, the military is a separate entity. And when you go into the military, you adapt to it. The military don't adapt to your lifestyle. You adapt to it, because it's made to be uniform. That's why you wear a uniform. It's made to be uniform, meaning everybody's going to look the same to the best, white, black, no. But everybody's going to cut their hair a certain way. There's going to be set rules, standards, and procedures, right? It's uniform for a reason. It's discipline for a reason. The military is not for you to go in there and go, well, I don't like that, and why do I have to eat this? Some people would never make it in the military. When you go through basic training in the Army, they got red, yellow, green when you're eating. So if you're overweight, guess what you ain't eating from? The green. If you're really fat, you ain't eating from the green or the yellow. You over on the red slot. All right? If you're kind of in the middle, they'll go, okay, you're yellow. If you're Slim Jim like me, green all day long, baby. And by the way, I ate turnip greens with chocolate ice cream at one time, same time, because you have to eat real fast. But if you were fat, you couldn't eat ice cream. All right, so again, now people will take that, oh, you're fat shaming. No, I'm just telling you how the military works. That's how it works. So when they brought in all this trans and all this other stuff, well, a lot of the trans, what they were doing, when they come into the military, male or female, they wanted the military to pay for that. All right, they wanted to take time off, right? Take leave time, which is also money to get. So that's the stuff that they're talking about. But if people will listen to someone like me in your normal, I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're Buddhist. I don't care if you're atheist. It don't even apply to you in another manner. Laws and orders don't hurt you. It's not taking away your rights. Your rights are being unshackled and more free by what's going on. That is why you do need a military personnel in your life that does know what's going on by military laws and federal. Has nothing to do with what I did and where I served, none of that. Has nothing to do with that. Okay, so let's just use an example. Let's say there's a guy out there, there's a veteran out there, and I won't pick on any of my buddies. Let's just say, though, that they never set foot in Afghanistan. Okay? So if they never set foot in Afghanistan, does that mean that their IQ stops where they didn't set foot? But if you're getting beat up by a civilian who never even served at all, well, what's that also say? So see how dumb this can get? So the empowerment boils down to receipts. What are the receipts? What's going on? How is President Trump able to do this? How are they able to walk in and go, whack, 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 knick, knack, patty, whack, give the dog a bone, yeah, yeah, yeah. How are they able to do that, right? Well, it's called a thing called laws and orders. Guess what? It's been around since our foundation. So that means you either have a problem with the foundation or you don't know about the foundation. So all the liberals, if the executive orders don't mean what they mean, why are they so mad? Why are they so belligerent? Why are they so angry and bitter and malicious and vicious? See, because they don't know the laws and orders. They don't know what's happening is actually going to benefit from them. Which is why I said you wouldn't want me to be Commander-in-Chief. Because the way they're acting right now, before now, way back in November, when they were talking about Kamala and all that stuff, even if I was Commander-in-Chief, every Democrat and every liberal, based off their voter registration and who they voted for, I'd say, okay, you voted for Kamala, you get $5.96 of gas. Yours ain't going down. When you go to the pump, you stick your card in, it's going to say registered Democrat, registered liberal. Bang! And when you stick your little card in, boop! It's going to put the highest dollar that gas got with any Democrat on your card. When you go to the grocery store, all of you liberals out there saying, oh, why aren't the egg prices going down now? All this stuff. Oh, Trump didn't say what he was going to do. He's only been in a month. Oh, Trump didn't say what he... When your ass goes to the grocery store, you, under Commander-in-Chief Jonhson, your ass would go up there, what the heck? Why are my eggs $12.99? Sorry, you voted Democrat, you voted liberal, and you didn't want to seek to understand the laws and the orders in place. So guess what? Until you change your mind and until you change your thought process and your empowerment, your ass is going to get everything that you still believe in. It's why when Californians leave California and they go to some other state, they don't leave their ideology behind. Oh no, they bring that with them. It's like you're leaving a state of which you think just like that. So they leave because taxes are high and they want to go to another state where it's cheaper to live, but they don't realize that their mindset and the way they think is what established that and kept it going. I mean, that's how dumb liberals are. Dumb ain't even the word for it. I mean, atrocious? I don't know. Is there a worse word than atrocious? I'm like, Elon, I mean, they're acting retarded. And I'm going to make that word great again. So, again, Elon said it first, but we've always been saying that. And if you want to look the part, then you probably need to be branded the part. They look retarded. They look like they can't be told. Like you can't get right. The other thing, rhino Republicans are saying the same things that liberals are in this context. So if they're not to be enforced, so that people say, dear Jonhson, it don't work like that. Okay, well tell me how it works, because you're not all you're doing is saying it don't work like that, but you don't tell people how it works. Because you don't know. They don't know. It does work like that. If it didn't work like that, you wouldn't be seeing the greatest operation known to man go down right now. If it didn't work like that. It does work like that. If it didn't work like that, President Trump would be signing all the executive orders that he's signing. See, when he signs them, he gets them enforced. They're being enforced. So when you hear people say it don't work like that, one, they never try to tell you how it works by laws and orders because they don't know. They want you to click. They want you to be combative in the comment box and come at them to drive up their visibility. All right, that's all they want. So stay away from that. That's how you stay away from it. So when they say, oh, dear Jonhson, that's not how it works. Okay, if executive orders don't work like that, they're not enforced like that. So you're telling me that the order that President Trump, you really think President Trump signed an order, let's say yesterday, you think that he won't enforce that until, hey, whoever the 57th president is going to be, enforce this executive order then. We're signing it now, though, but we'll let you take care of it. Number 57, you. That's what people are saying when they say that executive orders aren't enforced the way that I talk about. Yes, they are. They most certainly are. All right, so all these executive orders in a row, that's why you had to have the capability to put it all together at one time, because that is why the liberals are losing their minds, because they're saying, oh my God, Donald Trump's taking us back 50 years. You don't even know simple math. No, he's taking you back 250 years. You just went back to 1776. Welcome. All right, so, again, if it didn't work like that, then guess what you would have? You'd have the past back. You'd have the swamp back if it didn't work like that. Do you want the swamp back? No, you don't. All right, nope. So let's go over to CPAC. This is what was fun yesterday. Was Tom Homan. And I'm going to quote it now. Now I get to quote the word. But Tom Homan stood up and he said, for those of you who know me or have a problem with what I'm doing, I don't give a shit. Tom Homan. I love that dude. I met him at Trump International February the 17th, maybe. I think it was. I'd have to go back and look at the date. I think it was the day before I signed my publicity contract. But I was with him, and man, I'm going to tell you what. That dude's hand, if he punched a sissy boy in the face, like all your liberals, if he punched David Hogg in the face, man, his hand is so big, it's like it's one of those thick hands. When it shakes your hand, you better have full force shaking back, because your hand will crumble just about. That dude punched me right in the ribs. It was so fun. He went, and he did just like that. He went, keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, oh God, yes, sir. Oh yeah. So again, like my dad one time, I was riding around when I was about 15. I was sleeping in the truck sideways like this, sleeping on the door. My dad punched the shit out of my arm. I said it, but he did. He punched it right there. Bam! Just like that. And I, naturally hits the nerve, and I wake up. God, what'd you do that for? I got to toughen you up, right? That's what a lot of Americans are slacking. You don't know the difference of being tough and abuse. You don't know the difference of resiliency and, cancel. He might get canceled for saying that. See, I don't give a shit either. I'm like Tom Homan. I don't give a shit. All right, I am who I am. You don't have to like me. But I guarantee you one thing, I bring the receipts. I have the receipts. I've already studied it with a fine-tooth comb before I even put it out there. All right? So, it's there. It's up to you to go read. That's what I'm here for, is to go, hey, here, you go read this. Empower yourself. You may see me and need me one time. Walk away. All right? A lot of people are doing that on Telegram right now. There's people leaving, and that's fine. They may only need me for a little while. That's fine. Go on. But if you're leaving because you haven't read, you haven't studied, and you think there's going to be some silver spoon just stuck in, you're missing the point of we're giving the power back to the people. That's why you never see a liberal. You never see a liberal talk about the Declaration of Independence. Why? How come liberals never talk about the Declaration of Independence? How come liberals never reference the Revolutionary War? How come liberals never talk about the military establishment before the Declaration of Independence, before the Constitution? How come they never talk about that tenacity, that toughness? How come they never talk about even the discrepancies back then? Hey, it's okay, Federalists versus anti-Federalists. How come they never even have that conversation? They don't want it. They want to take all the milk and honey and make you suffer, but they don't want to fight for it. They just want you to give it up, right? That's why you got to stand tall, be tough. Don't worry about what they say. Don't worry. If you think that you can be, if you out there, whoever you are, if you think that you could start a podcast or a show or whatever, and you feel like that you have the face and the ability to do it, don't worry about what other people say. Stand tall. So like when people say, oh, I don't like Derek Jonhson because he complains. I don't complain. See, there's a terminology problem right there. People don't know the difference of calling something out and complaining. So don't worry about what they say, because there's people out there who do know that I'm calling people out because I have the receipts. I don't talk about people. I don't sit and talk about, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so. I don't make up stuff. I don't make misinformation, false accusations. I don't have to. I don't need to. Don't want to, but don't have to. That's the key thing. I have the receipts of what's operating the military and the federal government in a special operation. So when you see me having to defend myself, well, if you lay down and take it too much, then people think, oh, So you got to pick your battles, right? But I pick my battles for you. I pick my battles because I see emails saying I'm confused, I just don't know who to listen. Those are the people that I roast people for. Those are the people. So it's really for you. So when you see people out there going, oh, 28 U.S. They're saying, oh, the government, it's not a corporation. Well, why does 28 U.S. Code 3002 say the United States is a federal corporation? How about explain that? Why do you need lawfare? Why do you need misinformation, false accusations? Why'd you try to steal my federal trademark? What's stealing a trademark have to do with, again, what's that have to do with laws and orders? Except for you violated them. Like, what's that have to do with that? Right? And why are the people attacking me all connected to each other? Because they're deep state. They're the rhinos. They're the deep state. Most of them portray to be President Trump supporters. So you got to call it out. That's what helps you discern. That's what helps you know what to listen to. Again, all you need is what's in place. And Tom Homan, he's getting his orders from what? President Donald John Trump, who is in a special operation. This whole thing is a special operation. The whole thing. All right. I've wanted it to be over quicker, just like everybody else in a lot of ways. However, because I do understand what's going on and the complexity of it and the vast, vast intricacies of it, there's no way this all could have just been cleaned out and then all of a sudden dumped on the American people all at one time. There's so much corruption. There's so many evil facets that's been going on for so long with drug trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking, all your money laundering, all your money waste, all these global alliances and how they connected and were interwoven with each other. There's so much stuff, but it's all being cleaned out. So that's why I tell people, I don't give a dang. And once you ever get in that place in your life, then you're gonna be a lot more empowered, especially when you know what's going on. You're gonna really be emboldened in a good way because you won't care what your friends and family think. You won't worry about it. And you'll just tell them straight up, well, you can learn today or you can learn tomorrow. And the longer you wait, the dumber you're going to look. Just tell them straight up. The longer you wait, the dumber you're going to look. And if you are somebody who thinks that you can be an influencer and you don't know, when you get way down here, you family members and friends, you tell them, nope. I've got the goods on you. I got the receipts on you. You're not starting a podcast. You're not starting a show because you were back here. You were defiant the whole time on something that was straight up easy laws and orders to read. And that's how we clean out the internet. That's how we clean out platforms. That's how we clean out networks. That's how you clean them out. You find their motives. You find their intent and their motives. So, I'm moving to the next step here because this is going to move pretty quick now. Recently, I had a ankle biter out there who they're saying that the Dash is trash. Now, if I went with my little bit of apparel that I do, if I went and duplicated this straight up. Now, President Trump probably wouldn't go after you because that's all this is still advertisement for him, and that's how he views a lot of stuff. But however, if I went and mimicked this hat to a T, just like that, especially his slogan, and then I started saying that it was my idea, let's just say that, he could hit you with a cease and desist, right? I don't think he would, but you know, we'll just go with that, just to prove my point. I didn't put this here. He did. He put the Dash there. Now, I've always sat and wondered, like, when was it ever, like, just absolutely everything put on paper? That blackbird there is a crow. This little red thing is an apple. This little green thing is a pear. This is a cap, all right? This is a bracelet. This is a jacket, all right? This is a buckle. Like, things that we have, right? How come no one ever gets up in arms and like these massive groves of people going, we're not going to call it a blackbird anymore. It's not a crow. It's a this, you know? like when it... Like, you never see people get up in arms, like in a mass group of people going, well, we don't like it called a jacket anymore. We want it called something else. All right? You know? So, think about little things like that. It's crazy, maybe, but it gets you to thinking. This is what gets your little wheels and your little hamster rolling up here to be able to think outside the box. So, okay, why is this a book? Why do we call things certain things? Right? Why? So when you think about a dash, just something as simple as a dash that's been in punctuation for years. So you would have to make the argument. If you're calling the dash trash and you claim to be a President Trump supporter, you're already ruled out that you're not a President Trump supporter whatsoever. There is no way that you can support this man and call that dash trash. There's no way. You just put a stamp of approval of your forehead that you are a rhino Republican who don't like President Trump and or you're a liberal. There is no other way to slice that pie. No other way. Because you would have to make the argument that President Trump has a cognitive disability. Because he put this dash on his ball cap April the 2nd, 2023. Which was a year and 7 months before the day that was decided number 47. But he's saying, I'm already number 47 on April 2nd, 2023. So all of a sudden, this person out there, they go on. They're a guest of the fill-in. They're not on with the actual person. They're just on the fill-in, like over there. They're going over there on the show and they trash me and well, I don't have access to that show. So that's like the old school Western being shot in the back. It's what that is. Because I can't defend myself on the same platform, and they know that. But see, that's not a publicity move, ladies and gentlemen. That's not. The operation don't work like that. That's not going, oh, I'm going to talk bad about this person, and we're going to make all these people go look him up. It's all public laws and orders, what I talk about. So, now, we're going to get into why they're doing it in another manner here shortly. But before then, it's discernment for you, because right now is the most vulnerable time period. When we go through the smoke, when all the smoke's starting to clear, and you're starting to see your taxes being unshackled, you're starting to see all this stuff, and you're starting to see all, like, your bank accounts flourishing, the gas costs, and all this stuff, everything's flourishing again. Everybody's been unshackled, liberals included, Democrats included, the world, everybody's unshackled from all these burdens and all this strife and all this, propaganda and drama. When all that stuff, when the smoke clears, the way we maintain and sustain that is not going to be liberals and Democrats if they were to pipe up again. Let's just say they did for hypothetical. I hate hypotheticals, but let's just say that. But they show their faces. They may look atrocious and ignorant, but they're polar opposite of everything going on right now because they've been conditioned as well. They don't know any better. They've been conditioned equally to what everybody else has been conditioned. We all grew up in some form of conditioning. It was up to us to do what? Escape it, right? Empower yourself and go, okay. But liberals at least are the polar opposite than you. So they're easy to identify. It's a lot harder in good times, in gravy times. It's a lot harder to discern the people. If you're not skilled, if you're not empowered, first off, let's flip that. If you're not empowered with what's going on, the laws and the orders, everything that's run in the military and the government, if you're not empowered with that, fluent in that, here and here, if you're not going to have the skill set to identify the people who do this, but are this. That's how the swamp was established. That's how it was established. Because people, we the people, as a majority, stopped giving a dang about that. Stop reading, studying. You trusted. You put all this trust into these people, and some of them are good people, but very few. All the others conjoined. It looked like what Matlock shows you on TV show when Matlock was going to bat with the judge and the other lawyer, and they were like, let's make a deal. And Matlock's going, nope, my guy's innocent, and I'm going to prove it. But those two over here wanted to make a deal. Same thing. Same exact analogy. Blow that up, amplify that, make it in a bigger setting, bigger picture. That's what the swamp was all those years. They were incompetent, but they were all in it together. As President Trump says, when one got fired in this department, how does a guy, let's just use the Department of Education, how does someone in the Department of Education all of a sudden end up in the Department of Justice? Now, come on. All right, so if you're going to beat people up like me for talking about, you don't have the experience and your resume and you're this, first off, how'd you get my resume? Yeah, see, I had a certain resume that ended up on the internet out there. This has been 2 or 3 years ago. And it was a specific resume designed, if you do master's school now or even business school, but master's of business, they teach you how to make a resume specifically for one little entity, maybe in a company. Not the whole company, but that shows someone hacked my computer, because that's not out there for people. So see, little things like that. And then people get it and go, oh, he's never done this, and this. You don't know what I've done. It doesn't matter. I don't sit here and try to act like that's someone that's like, I have what I have. I have Billboard hits in country music. I now have #1 best-selling books. Take it or leave it. So it's just humorous that, again, the rhinos are really showing now. Ooh, they're the ones that are scared. They're the ones afraid of you going, oh, you've been doing this the whole time? How dare you take this and how dare you trick people? And the rhinos are the ones that are really shaking right now because they're the ones scrambling. That's why they got to do what? When skunk, I always use the skunk because a skunk, when a skunk lets that potent odor out, that's their last line of defense. Rhinos, right now, what they're doing is they're trying to color and muddy up the water. If you know what catfish are, not the TV show, what females or males do to other people, but real catfish. All right, if you know what catfish, some people don't want catfish in their pond because it does what? Muddies up the water. Catfish are bottom feeders. They get on the bottom and they get on the mud and they muddy up the water. All right. So that is a definition of rhinos right now. That's how you tell the difference in them. So when you have a person who claims to be a President Trump supporter saying that the dash is trash, that's clown, they put little clown faces. No, you are being exposed for the rhino you are and or closet liberal. You're not a President Trump supporter. So now you're hearing, and you've always heard it, for you to listen. That's why I tell people, President Trump, there's no such thing as a midterm rally. No such thing. If President Trump would have been a former president in an election cycle year, him doing the speeches that he did, that would have been election interference of a sitting president. If you think or thought that Joe Biden was a sitting president, again, you have to go by principles and laws and orders. The very thing that President Trump talks about and signed Executive Order 13848 with a national emergency, which is very big, election interference, he would have been violating his own declaration of a national emergency. That Joe continued 4 years in a row, it's still current and active. Why? So see, there's two things right there that's like separate topics, separate ways to break that down. Why would Joe continue an executive order that would damn his whole administration and damn his whole legacy and damn his whole career? That makes no sense. And then two, it makes no sense that President Trump will be out doing these rallies that would be interference of national security of a sitting president if Joe was president. Because he wasn't president. Laws and orders show that, not opinion. Unique laws and orders that made President Trump a wartime president. Which is why there's no White House military office archive for President Trump. Explain that. White House military office, that's your transportation of the president via Air Force One and Marine One. How come there's not an archive page for President Trump in the first go around? If he was a former president, there's so many things. Why on the Department of Defense? Why in the National Security Strategy? How come the last National Security Strategy, right now to this day, on defense.gov, how come it's 2017? Where's Joe's at? How come every president before President Trump has multiple national security strategies, but Joe doesn't? That's all military. So if you love the military, you should be listening. So all of a sudden, this topic of the third term has popped up. Third term. So let's go to January 27, 2024. Joe Biden is speaking in Columbia, South Carolina. And he says, oh, you know who's paying attention? Donald Trump's paying attention. Can you believe he said that? The sitting president. Joe Biden, out of his mouth, Now, there's people out there that'll argue with you and say, well, he was a babbling idiot anyway, blah, blah. He was already losing his mind. No, that's people who don't know laws and orders currently invoked. That's surface talk. Don't waste your IQ on them unless they're willing to listen to laws and orders currently invoked that surround that to show you that no. First off, if you say Joe in present tense, you're already wrong. 2, if you say Joe in president, you're already wrong. Do you believe in laws and orders or not? Yay or nay? If they say yes, then say, all right, let me show you the laws and orders in place. And if you can't tell them, then say, go watch this guy. He'll show you. Because laws and orders prove that Joe is not president in a unique setting. He was not president unique. Again, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Presidential Emergency Action Documents. Continuity of Government. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. Again, Constitution. So if liberals out there, you say, oh, President Trump's violating the Constitution. You can't even quote from the Constitution, much less dissect and imply how it means and what it means. You can't even do that. So see, again. So it's bad enough that liberals look that way. It's even worse when someone claims to be a President Trump supporter with the platform and saying that. That's atrocious. But, again, rhinos are being exposed just as much as the libtards and the demon rats, the Democrats, demon rats. So Joe Biden was saying that President Trump, can you believe he said that? The sitting president. He told you. That was January 27th, 2024. February the 2nd, 2024, John Bolton was on CNN, and they asked him a question. Could President Trump serve with all the stuff that he's being indicted for? Can he serve a second term? John Bolton says, boom, and this is one time reading fails you. Don't read the little thing down here. This is the one time when I tell people to read, don't read. You better listen. It says about the second term. John Bolton on CNN says that, well, the Constitution specifically bars President Trump from a third term, but knowing Trump, he will seek to ratify the Constitution in order to stay in power. John Bolton said that February the 2nd, 2024. May the 17th or the 18th, one of those days, 2024, President Trump is speaking at I think it was Dallas, Texas, at the NRA convention. President Trump looks at one of his advisors, and he was in a conversation with the crowd and also said, so what's it going to be? Is this going to be our second or third term? And then he went on to say in other speeches the same thing. And he also said, well, I don't really want the results of the second one, but that is a special operation, ladies and gentlemen. The people out there, well, why would Donald Trump let our economy go to hell then? Blah. You're staying with your emotions. You're married to your emotions. You're married to your feelings. You got to separate those. You got to divorce those and go straight up to military laws, federal laws, parent, and see the bigger picture. Look at the airplane view. I give you the airplane view. Three days ago, President Trump, Black History Month, he's with Tiger Woods. And he says, should I run another 4 years? And that audience erupted. 4 more years! 4 more years! So, let me show you something. I'm about to really put this idiot in their place, right? And to show you how they are truly a rhino and or closet liberal. And the people they're around are also. It's not part of the operation. President Trump in the topic, the third term is a topic, meaning it's in a focal point. It's been said from 2021 to present day, which means it's a focal point. It means that, hey, brings attention to people who hear it, and or me who brings your attention to it. The third term. They're bringing your attention to it. already, and they've been doing that. So this person out there who claims to be a President Trump supporter, right, they are, quote unquote, hobnobbing or whatever you want to call it. I think they're probably slobnobbing, but, you know, that's just me, and forgive me. But you got to call a spade every now and then. President Trump gave someone a nickname that was in his previous administration, and he's already said it all over mainstream, and he said this, he's tweeted this. He said that he had nothing to do with the success of our presidency. He is all about phony books, phony that he went to jail because he's tied to embezzlement. All right, he was given a nickname, Sloppy Steve. All right, and he's so cocky that he says recently in an article 7 days ago that he believes President Trump still watches his shows and gets notes off of him. And President Trump, one of his advisors, said, Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about Steve Bannon. All right. President Trump has already told you that there will be no carryovers from my first administration over. Now, the middle is not an administration. See, that's where people, you got to use discernment. This is where I teach you. When I say that President Trump is a wartime president, that don't mean it was an administration. So when President Trump says my first administration and this administration being the second, the middle wouldn't have been an administration. It's an occupation. Military government, military occupation, continuity of operations, continuity of government. It wasn't a normal administration. That's where you got to use listening skills and separate terminology. All right? That's where a lot of people are still struggling out there. A lot of your friends and family are struggling with that because they don't want to listen. They want to hear what they want to hear, but they don't want to apply the verbiage, the terminology. They don't want to apply it. And no matter how much they keep defining it, this is for your friends and family out there. The more you keep ignoring your family member or your friend trying to tell you, the more you push that off, the more atrocious you're going to look in the end. And it'll be up to your friend and family if they want to ridicule you or however they do it, fun and or serious. It's all there. Again, we can't make you read, we can't make you study, we can't make you comprehend. We can lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink. You got to want that. But what we're saying to you is that if you want to whine, complain, gripe, and fuss about things that you think are like gas and all that, well, there's an internal value to that that controls that. And we're telling you right now there's a unique time period that don't focus on that right now. Here's what they're actually doing, and it's unique, and it's a special operation. And it's not just a little bit. It's not just U.S. government. This is a big, massive global cleanout. So I don't like using people's names like I did, but when President Trump gives you a nickname and it's not a good name, President Trump is about loyalty in a good way. By all of what I talked about, he's the generation like my dad. Look you in the eye, handshake. When he says something, he means it. My dad always walks around, do what you say and mean what, and say what you do. Say what you do and mean what you say. Same thing, right? However you want to twist it, say it. But when you tell somebody something, why tell them if you're not going to do it? Because to them, it may be everything. To them, you may be their everything. To them, they may be like, oh man, Jared Johnson's coming to play golf with me tomorrow. I can't play golf, by the way, but that was the best analogy I thought of. But I can't do that with my injuries. But, again, if Jared Johnson says, oh my God, Jared Johnson's going to have coffee with me. If I tell you I'm going to have coffee with you, I'm going to have coffee with you. All right? I love coffee, obviously. President Trump is that generation. And when you hear liberals out there talking about, oh, he got a $400 million, he didn't get $400 million. He got $1 million loan. It was a loan. All right. Now, no, his dad probably wouldn't have made him pay it back, but that's not the point. He took $1 million and made it billions. See, they missed the point. If my dad gave me $5, I made it 20. It don't matter the dollar value. is the fact that I didn't lose the $5. I didn't come back. He said, hey, I'm going to give you a $5 loan. Here's a loan. All right, it means I want it back. Here it is in contract. I want this. I'm giving you $5, all right, for 5 years. And then I want it back if this, whatever those are. If I came back with $4 or $3 or $2, he might not care how I lost it, but then he'd go, well, where's my other money at? I loaned you $5. Why are you handing me $3? So, again, trashing the dash means that you have a problem with President Trump, not me. So let me show you something. This is really, really cool what I put together. Caught these people. Caught them red-handed. All right. One, if you look at this dash and you hear all this terminology, if you're listening and you hear the third term terminology, well, you already have a visualization of a third term right here. It'd be different if you didn't have that. If you just had that, and or that was a comma or a little and, then you would go, okay, well, is there a surprise factor with this? Would they erase the comma and erase the little and symbol if that was a little and there? And erase that and go, oh, we're going to put a dash there. Or would it be this? It would have to be this if it hadn't happened yet. It would have to show 45 comma 47 or 45 and a little and symbol 47. Then a dash would be here with a 48. And that is how you smoke a rhino. That is how you smoke a closet liberal. That's how you smoke and roast a freaking hater who claims to be, they all claim to be influencers. That's how you put them in their place. Because if President Trump is the main focal point, and he is, he's the face of the operation, he's already given you a visual that there's already a third term in place. 45 through 47. 45 to 47. 45, 46, and 47. So if the third term hasn't happened yet, then why is President Trump displaying that it has? And that he's in the third? Because again, if it wasn't in laws and orders, which it is, outlining laws and orders, that you're watching the third term now, then the third term, you'd have to erase that right there, put a comma, again, 45, comma, 47, dash, 48. If 48 would be your third term. Mic drop. That's how you expose the rats. But see what's happened, what has happened, because it's all public laws and orders. It's all public laws and orders. However, what I've done is established a blueprint. Meaning I have the capacity, God gave me the ability to put all this together in a chronological order, in a flowing manner. Like one of my viewers here, he talks a lot about it's a workbook. It's not a book like a novel. It's a book that you take, especially part 2 here. Part 2 is a boost. Look how big part 2 is. This is part 2. But it's mainly photos. Let me see if I can do it like this. It's going to be hard to do, but let's see if I can do it like that. It's not heavy reading. See, it's just little lines and photos. It's not heavy reading at all. But also what I did, because I've been to college and I've done a bachelor's and a master's, I used to hate when you would be like right here. Let's say you're right here. I used to hate having to hold your finger and go to the back and find the references and then go back over here to this. So what did I do? I put all the references right up under everything. So all you got to do is take the book, There's where the problem is with all these people out there who didn't do good from the start. They weren't doing right from the start. They haven't done right in the middle. And now they're trying to portray that they're still a President Trump supporter. And, oh, we're a President Trump supporter. And, oh. Guess who's been talking about the third term? Bannon. Bannon's been mentioning that we want President Trump for 2028. Oh, so he wants to be a savior, and he wants to be the one talking about, oh, it's mine, and the third term. So you're trashing Elon, but you want President Trump for 2028. That is not operational, ladies and gentlemen. That's not how operations work. That's propaganda. That's drama. That's emotional tugging. That's preying you with emotions, preying, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G. They're preying on your emotions. They're preying on your feelings. They want you to get into this. People like me are saying, that ain't how it works. If he was doing right from the start and doing right in the middle, he would have never gone to jail. He wouldn't have had it. He wouldn't have President Trump giving him a nickname. All right? Wouldn't have that. Dan Scavino is a great one to follow. If you don't follow Dan Scavino, follow Dan Scavino. Dan Scavino has done right from the start. He's done right in the middle. And he's still doing right because he's one of President Trump's right-hand men. Go follow Dan Scavino. He makes sure the dash is in everything. He's the one that posts and makes sure the dash is up in the forefront of everything. People that do right from the start, do right in the middle, and are still doing right now, empowering you, not putting you in one of these modes with anything. So see, intellectual property is where I have every single person who is a rhino and or has an ulterior motive. I have them. Have them right there. And it's how hard I want to squeeze them. Even though I would never put a ball sack in my hand. Sorry, Mom. But it's an illustration. I have the intellectual property on the whole blueprint. Everything. Of laws and orders that makes President Donald John Trump the modern day Cyrus the Great. And all the men and women who are behind the scenes that may never show their face, who have been in operations as well. This right here are all the laws and the orders in a chronological order of the military government, military occupation, continuity of government, continuity of operations that already outlines the third term. And they're jealous because they don't have it. And guess what? What did President Trump tell every one of you? On January the 20th, 2017, the moment the military walked down behind him with the Judge Advocate General and military intelligence headbands, which showed you we're about to go into a special operation, during the moment they walked down was the time he said, we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people. See, the little man, the little bitty veteran that, oh, he didn't do this and he didn't, people don't care. You're missing the point. If you're a good person, but you're saying that, you're missing the point. President Donald John Trump, Dan Scavino, Tom Homan, Siggy Flicker, there's a bunch we can name here, Roseanne Barr, there's a bunch of people also part of this, good people. President Trump, the power back to the people, the little man, the men and women who make everything great. You, every single one of you, made this book, both of them, and my other one, the Royal Flush Crunch Music, wherever it is, but you made this a #1 bestseller. I didn't. I have not promoted this one bit except for on my podcast. That's it. I don't do, even with my music, I don't do paid promotions. Don't. Right? Just put it out there and let it do it. Y'all did this. You did this. People did this. Right? So, all of these faces that should have been doing right from the start and right in the middle, who weren't doing right from the start, weren't doing right in the middle. They had ulterior motives, ulterior things for you to keep you doing this with each other in the comment boxes, and Hansel and Gretel and you, throwing you a crumb here and there. And also every single day is a surface level talk that President Trump already brings to the forefront. Once he brings it to the forefront, you don't need all the surface level talk. You need what he's working with. What is cleaning out the federal government? What is finding the money launderer? What is finding the waste? What is operating the military with the drug trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, human trafficking? You're not going to see all the mission, but you can see the blueprint enough to give you solace, peace, power of a sound mind. What does the Bible say? What does 2 Timothy verse 1:7 say? God didn't give you the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So see, you have the authority. You allow what you allow in your life. I don't. If it were up to me, I would stop every single one of you from watching the podcast, except for going to President Trump, Dan Scavino, and a few people like that, and then my podcast, because I'm not a podcaster by trade, but I show you all the laws and orders, not in 3 minutes time, not in 5 minutes time. That's also what's messed up, people. Everybody wants a 3 or 5 minute conversation. It's not possible. You want to know what's going on? It's going to require initiative, some time, and some commitment to studying, to reading. And or, if you're like Reed from Texas, had a guy come up to me a few years back in Texas, said, "My name's Reed, I'm from Texas, and I don't like to read." And I said, "Well, that's cool." He said, "But I appreciate how repetitive you are on your videos because I learn every time you do." And I'm like, well, the cool thing is why I'm repetitive is you don't need a lot of stuff. There's still people out there that thinks there's like 4 trillion laws out there that outline this. It's not. It's not that many at all. And once you divorce your feelings and your emotions with all the propaganda and all the surface level garbage, when you learn to divorce that and you read what's in place, now you can get it all at once right here, but all of my pages, all of my Facebooks, all of my places like Telegram where I can post the material, everything that's in that book are on my pages. So it's not like that I have you bent over a barrel where I'm like, well, you can't know it unless you buy this book. No, you can know it. Mainly the people who bought the book are just people who are avid followers who wanted it all in one lump sum. You don't have to buy the book to get the whole blueprint. The whole blueprint are all over my pages. So, real simple. And then you got to learn how to pair it together. So see, intellectual property. Every single big author out there, part one has been timestamped December 2023. So see, I have every big name author beat. Every big name. So no one will be able to take the whole blueprint and say it just like I said because what? Intellectual property rights. Again, Merle Haggard. If people be doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. Go listen to Rainbow Stew by Merle Haggard. He wrote that song years ago, and it is to a T of what President Trump has done. If people be doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. When the president goes through the White House door and does what he says he'll do, we'll all be drinking free Bubble Up and eating that Rainbow Stew. So get your bowls out, baby. I guess we're eating Rainbow Stew because we finally have the president go through the White House door and do what he said he'd do. But see, if people be doing what they ought to be doing, then they won't be booing no more. Well, people wouldn't have to boo if they knew the laws and the orders in place by the man of the face of the operation. Then they wouldn't look atrocious when they're on a platform telling people that, oh, they said, this person said 1550, so 1550 is not in the War Powers Act. And you go over to Title 50, Chapter 33, 1550. Title 50, War and National Defense, Chapter 33, the War Powers Act. So see what it is, they're creating controversy because their guy is the one who didn't do right from the start, didn't do right in the middle, went to jail, embezzlement, and got a nickname by President Trump. I don't have a nickname by President Trump. Sucks to suck. Now watch this. Recently. So, it's been a few days ago. I can't remember the exact date now. Maybe the 18th. I think it was the 18th of February. President Trump was in an interview and a reporter asked a question. So, and I'm going to close with this because it's a short podcast. But when you're sitting around with your friends and family, the ones of you that can talk to your friends and family about, I hate the word politics because this isn't politics. Politics is what drama and surface level stuff is, and this is what get people to... Military and government, those are the two topics that need to be the terms. All right, the terms defined, as the saying is. So when you're sitting around with your friends and family that you can have a conversation with, and a lot of people, there's some women that follow me. There's a lot of them that follow me. Let me write a little note down where I can make sure I can highlight women again and show you something with that. But there's some women who follow me who they have small groups. So what they do is they'll get together. Some of them are up to 100 people. 100 women in one room. No wonder guys hate me. There's some out there who have tried to attach their name to me and try to meet me and get in my entourage, as the saying is. And they're the very ones who go around there and say, oh, Derek Jonhson, he's in it for the women. And I'm like, you're the one in it for the women, and don't let me expose you because I have the goods on you. All right, but see, I'm not about that. My whole objective is not to expose people. I have to defend myself. And I'm going to defend myself. There ain't no doubt about it. And because I can't physically fight, well, I'm going to give them hell with the receipts. All it takes are receipts. And when people don't have receipts and all they use are lies and misinformation, false accusations, then, again, discernment 101. What are you here for? Are you here for receipts? Or are you here for drama and propaganda? Which one do you want? All right, I'm going to defend myself, though, from propaganda and drama that's meant to confuse you. All right, so when I defend myself, you shouldn't be leaving my page or getting mad because I'm defending myself and taking time to do so. All right, I can multitask like nobody's business. That's why ladies love me, because I can multitask like ladies can. Women got a baby in the arm, got 4 pots on the stove, and on the phone, they're a real estate agent, and they selling houses, cooking food, and got babies. Guys, you can't even pee in the toilet. You can't pee in the toilet with the dang seat lid up. You can't even hit the toilet. All right, you can't do one thing. All right, so there you go. Ladies, shout out to the ladies. If I was wrong about something already, women would have annihilated me because females love that. Females love doing that, and that's okay. So I'm going to do this first. I'm going to highlight women. I'm going to show you something really quick. Ladies, you do have the power. You know that. Y'all know this. Y'all have full power. You want to change the world? This is how you would actually do it. When you take this literally, what I'm about to say, humorously and literally, but literally too. When I was in Anaheim, California a couple years ago, I had a question from the audience. And there was a lady, and she said that her husband talked down to her, belittled her, pinned her in corners, not physically, but emotionally. Verbiage, the language, talked down to her because she had been reading and studying. Well, she wanted to talk to her husband, her confidant. She wanted to have a conversation about this stuff. And what did he do? Oh, that's a bunch of hogwash and trash and this, that, and the other. Well, if she didn't have any friends, then what was she to do? If she wanted to have conversations, she was going to have to either go make friends who also were interested in this, or what? Who could she talk to? Can you imagine? That's a helpless feeling when you don't have anybody to talk to. All right, it's a helpless feeling. So it's sad in one way. But I said, okay, well, I got a solution real quick. May I ask you a few questions? Let me be a Democrat for a moment. Democrats get a question and they answer it with a question. So let me be a Democrat for a moment. Let me ask you a few questions where I can get a playing field here of how to address this a little bit more, because I need to know a little bit about your relationship. I'm like, do you love him? Yes. I said, do you like him? Yes. We get along. We're happily married. Been married all these years. I said, okay, without sounding like I'm 1950 with some women out there, the liberal women, I'm like, do you cook? Do you still cook for him? Are you the cook or is he the cook? Or do you eat out? Do you go out on the town and eat out all the time? Which one is it? There you go. I'm the cook. I said, okay, well, do y'all still do the hokey pokey? You still do the hanky panky? You still get in the bedroom? You still doing that? Blue pill or not? I said, yeah or no? Hey, that's part of marriage. Is it? She said yes. I said, starve him. Come on, ladies. If y'all all of a sudden told a man he ain't getting no loving, he ain't getting no kissing, he ain't getting no... If y'all all of a sudden said, go cook for yourself. Hope you like Crystal Burgers. Hope you like Burger King. Hope you can afford a Happy Meal all the time, because that's the only time you're going to be happy. If ladies all of a sudden said, everything's cut off. Everything. Am I right or am I right? Because women, men, if you hadn't already learned this, if you haven't picked this up, however old you are, you don't tell a woman, listen to me, don't do that. That's going to get her really, you might get a frying pan across your head. Hank Williams Jr. has a song called Attitude Adjustment. You might just get you an attitude adjustment. So what women do, if you want to have women in your life, if you want to be Hugh Hefner, whatever the heck you are out there, you shouldn't be that. But if you're just one of those single guys out there and you're on the prowl and all this other stuff, the way you get women to listen to you is to provide them with something that is of value to them. Real simple. If you want a gold digger, then you got to be able to provide the gold. All right, that means Louis Vuitton purses and whatever kind of car they want. If you want a gold digger, then you got to give them the gold. All right. If you want a simple woman, then a simple woman probably wants to have a conversation. Then you need to provide her with stuff that does what? Stimulates her brain, talks about her, all this other stuff. Now, there's some people who want to be single just to be single. Guys, all right, that's fine. But if you're complaining about that, if you wonder why women love my podcast, because I provide them with stuff that they can tangibly go put their hands on and go, it's there. Yep, right there. And then women, females, patriots, females, they gonna go, wonder what that little number is right there. That little tiny thing right there. Oh, it's got a link. You can click on that. And ladies go, I'm gonna click on that. Let's just see if that says something. Women are a fine-tooth comb. They pick it with a fine-tooth comb. That's why you shouldn't say much in your relationship, males. That way you don't have to answer to it just in case just in case you say a little bit too much. So I wouldn't be here because the ladies of the female world, right, the patriot world, would have canceled me already in a good way. Meaning like, hey, this guy, he's just another talker. All he does is talk surface level and garbage and drama and da-da-da-da-da. But see, I pay attention to details like a female does. I can multitask like a female does. All right. So that's why men, guys out there, it's all there. If you're arguing at this point and you're debating at this point, especially though if you're trashing at this point or dissing and all, you're only looking foolish to the people who go read. Because when the people who see that, see what a lot of times happen is it's publicity. So when someone bashes me and trashes me, especially if they're an influencer, what happens is the people who have a brain, there's some people in the comment box going, never heard of this guy. Who is this guy? All right. And they go look me up, and then they go read everything in place, and they're going to be like, whoa, this guy only talks about laws and orders currently invoked and how it outlines a special operation, military first. I'm military first, and then government second. But the checks and balances of local, state, and federal, not all federal. And I'm not all laws and orders just because it's a law and just because it's an order. No, I'm what supports our Constitution, our Declaration, and our foundation, which our foundation, military first. Bingo. All right, so ladies, love details. Paying attention to details. In a recent report, President Trump reported, so in your normal conversation with your friends and family, why would the word occupation, capitulation, white flag of surrender, occupied, belligerent ever be in your normal conversation of your normal past political? That's what I'm talking about. That's that discernment that teaches you and your friends and your family. You say, hey, have we ever mentioned the word occupied, belligerent, white flag of surrender, capitulation, and occupation in our terminology? Have we ever done that? No, you don't. Because it's not politics. Those are all military terms. They all come from a military glossary. They all come from a military index. They're all military terminology, verbiage, whatever word you want to put there. They're not of your normal government conversation. So why is it in all of President Trump's rallies, which weren't rallies, those are proclamations, all right? There's 4 ways again, 4 ways that military pairs with federal: executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. They all have to be signed and or declared by the whom? President. So a few days ago, a reporter was asking President Trump a question, and she said 2 key terms in her question that are random, pull out the hat if you've never heard of anything military. If the average onlooker, which there were a lot of them watching that day, they would have just heard that question and never even thought, what are those 2 words? But they should have. But now you, who have been empowered, and maybe you didn't hear it that day, but when I brought it back to the attention and say, hey, what do I talk about the most? What's the very foundation of what I talk about? My whole book, all of it, talks about how it's a World War II history repeat. Slightly different. Variables are different. The setup's different. The plan's different. But the overall umbrella is still there. Because of the War Powers Act, plural. And then also special operations. That's why it's key. You don't need a bunch of laws. You need the laws that are foundational. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. It says regular and irregular forces. That irregular ties into special operations, clandestine operations, covert operations, unconventional warfare, and irregular warfare. 2016, unconventional pocket guy that I talk about, special operations. It talks about government in exile. It talks about assassinations. Executive Order 12333 by Ronald Reagan. And then also puppet states, puppet governments. All the laws and orders in place right now are under that Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, executive orders. All military orders are in that. So why is the reporter saying the words capitulation and puppet government to President Trump? How many people that have never heard me before know what a capitulation is and a puppet government? More validity towards the operation first, call me a grifter all you want. That just means you're a dumbass with low IQ and you're jealous. Not a grifter. All right. President Trump validates me. First, he validated me with a picture with him. All right. He knows everything out there, especially when someone's putting him with somebody. He knows exactly what he's doing at all times. I'm standing beside the President of the United States of America in blue jeans that are not allowed at a country club with a pocket knife on the side of my pocket. In visual picture, standing right beside the President with the Secret Service on the other side of the glass door. All right? He knows. All right? The other thing is, if you're seeking validity from the standpoint of people out there just wanting to see, I want him to say it. He does say it, but we're still in the operation. So that's where you got to understand military. We're still in the operation. We're in a different phase of it. We're in a better phase of it. We're in a good phase of it, but we're still in the operation. You got to have patience. All right. But again, validity, capitulation, and puppet government. That's a puppet state. But puppet state is found in the Special Operations Command booklet. It's the very thing that I talk about all the time that my grandfathers talked about. My great uncles and grandfathers taught me this. That is the tie-in to the 200 generals back in President Trump. The 200 generals said, never again will we let happen in this country what happened under JFK. If we get a chance to take it over, we will. But a good takeover. So you don't worry about all the naysayers. You just got to figure out who the rhinos are and all the ones who are trying to look a part that ain't a part, who say they are and they're not, but also who are bashing, trashing. That's not a part of that. God is not the author of confusion. President Trump's not God, but he's also not someone to confuse you. There are confused people out there, but all the military operations is not to confuse people. It's to clean out all of the filth in which has taken place, and it's still taking place. My documents that I wrote, and they've been out since 2021, talks about governors being exposed. It exposes governors, all your mayors, your doctors, your boards of trustees of hospitals. All these people have been exposed. All those who did not follow orders, but especially presidential emergency orders, all these people have been exposed right now. That's why you saw Maine get annihilated, and now New York's governor is doing the same thing, saying, well, I'll see him in court. So you're saying that he's not a king, but you're saying you're the queen of governors. Okay. So see the contradiction? See the correlation there? You can't say President Trump says he's a king when you're saying, I'm the governor of New York and I'll see you in court. So you're saying you're the queen of New York. That's what you're saying. So you're just basically saying an oxymoron, a double standard. Again, all of this verbiage and terminology is validity to show you the discernment of what not to listen to and what listen to. It shows you the discernment that this is a validity of the operation. because it's in President Trump's speeches all the time. It's a rolling operation, and then you hear it every so often with stuff like that. The third term with the Black History Month. You now have the capitulation puppet government. That's the only thing I talk about. Nobody else, no other podcasters talk about the puppet government. Nobody. That's my baby. That's one of my babies. Nobody else has talked about that. Some have mentioned executive order. And I'm not here to talk about who does and what, but I'm just saying, that's validity. That's your validation. So that for your friends and family. If it ain't you, it's your friends and family. Say, hey, why would they be talking about a capitulation? Most Americans ain't even listening to that. 2, if they did, they didn't hear it. 3, if you stopped them and said, hey, do you know what a capitulation is? You think that little reporter knows? If you don't, come on. When you do the layers. All right. October and November 2024, President Trump in his speeches, he said, we're an occupied country. We will soon no longer be an occupied country. The Great Restoration starts on January the 20th. Terminology. This is why ladies love me, guys. Sorry. I don't mean that from the standpoint loving me like that, like some people do. I'm talking about the material, right? The validity, the material. All right. Terminology. Restoration, by definition, means to bring it back. Well, where did it go? Now, naturally, you're going to have people in their 60s, 70s, 80s saying, oh, I've never seen laws and orders enforced before. No, you haven't. But there's a blueprint in place in which they are being enforced. And it's also not a every 4 years again. There's a blueprint. There is a operation going. All right. President Trump would have never been able to pull this off just being a president alone and starting a movement. Ladies and gentlemen, apply that. This is not just a movement. There's no way that President Trump pulled this off simply because, he talks a little different and says certain things. No way. It's an operation of men and women who are what? Doing right from the start, doing right in the middle, and continuously doing right by what? A plan, a foundation, a blueprint of laws and orders that does what? Supports our foundation, supports our declaration, and supports the Constitution. Because the Constitution don't apply to you and I. That's for us to apply to representatives of us. The Declaration of Independence applies to us, which says what? It is their right and it is their duty to overthrow such government that goes against its foundation. Overthrow, by definition, there's a terminology again. Overthrow means to get rid of something, according to Oxford Languages. To get rid of something. Ooh, that sounds like mafia talk. But when a long train of abuses. Have you not seen a long train of abuses? What part of the Declaration, again, are people not reading? So when you see people out there up in arms over a guy like me who all I do is talk about laws and orders, they're a rhino or deep state liberal in wolf in sheep's clothing. They're not for the military because this is all military laws and orders first, paired with federal. Occupied country, occupied territory, capitulation, occupied territory. President Trump, well, we get to that in a minute. Articles, recent articles I've posted on my pages have shown people in politics, government, talking about belligerence. Why? When do you use the term belligerent in your conversation? Everyday conversation with your friends and family, having a sip of coffee. When do you use the term belligerent? You don't. Now, let's get back to President Trump. White flag of surrender. November 2022, he was at Mar-a-Lago speaking. And you could tell that he was upset at all the champagne drinkers out there who do what? There's a lot of people who go to Mar-a-Lago who are there for what? Visual status. They don't know anything of what he's doing. don't care what he's doing. That's why he raised his cost to his membership up as well, to start sifting out the people who want to be there for the right reasons. That's how you do it. At his status now, you raise the cost of membership. Say, all right, you want to be around me? We're going to find out. All right, we're going to find out. There's a lot of people there for this. It's all about status. It's all this. Just because they're around President Trump don't mean they know what's going on. Now, I know a lot that do. There's a lot that do. Shout out to Cameron and Siggy. All right, those two right there are fighters. All right, and they ain't afraid to say anything. They're fighters. They know what's going on. All right, but they're also key people. And there's a few others. There's a few others out there. All right. Senator of Arizona, Mark. There's a bunch of people who know what's going on. But they also know that this is also, it's a war, it's an unconventional war, again. So it's not going to be what the average eye sees unless you want to know what's going on. White flag of surrender. President Trump, at his speech, Mar-a-Lago, all drinking champagne, doing whatever they're doing. You can tell by his attitude in a good way, like me, when I want people to go read. I want you to read because it's empowerment. I do this on my time, my energy. No loss, but still, it's a loss because, hey, men and women who fought for it, who died for it, paid the ultimate sacrifice. I'm honoring their footsteps because we all served under the same Title 10. You cannot support the military without supporting laws and orders of what's taking place right now. There was deviating really quick. There's a veteran on X out there talking about Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and all this other stuff. Any veteran who thinks so, bro, you're all messed up, dude. You have no clue. Never quotes the Constitution, never quotes from military laws, Uniform Code of Military Justice, Title 10, never quotes from any of that. Just all surface. That's why you, the people, got to be careful when they say they're a veteran. Look, it's tough to say. It's tough, but veterans are in the same place that Elon talks about. You're at the crossroads of civilization. You're at the crossroads. Your integrity starts where the laws and orders back it. We have military laws and orders for a reason that are separate than the civilians. We have military customs and traditions that are separate than civilians for a reason. You either know those or you don't. And if you don't, you're going to look atrocious, especially right now. President Trump, white flag of surrender. That is straight up, not something you would say sitting around having coffee. All right, it ain't. President Trump said, remember Angela Merkel? Remember Angela? No one remembers her right now. Remember that? See, and he goes, when he said no one remembers her right now, he had paused because the audience didn't go, oh, boo, or whatever. They didn't react. And he goes, no one remembers her right now. He says, I gave her the white flag of surrender. And what's funny about Angela, if you read it on paper, it looks like Angela, but it's pronounced Angela. Remember when Kamala, they had her nieces come out on stage and say how to pronounce her name correctly? Right? And it was a jab towards President Trump. See, that was all distraction pieces. But for sake of bringing attention to it, Angela Merkel reads like Angela on paper. But it's pronounced, when you go look it up, Angela. How come Kamala couldn't pronounce her name correctly? Cheers! White flag of surrender. Occupied, belligerent, capitulation, white flag of surrender. All those terms are from the Law of War Manual. If there's not a special operation going on, if there's no unconventional warfare going on, no clandestine operations going on, irregular warfare, covert operations, then why do all the laws and orders invoked, why do all the executive orders signed and declared, all the national emergencies declared, why do they all outline a special operation? And then your third term. There it is. That outlines the special operation. And it fits snug as a bug when you go read everything in place. And everybody who supports me, first off, thank you, because you're amazing patriots. But what you're doing is allowing me to go on the road and go out to places and speak for no cost and tell people what's going on. Whether it be 5 people, 100 people, 5,000 people. There's a podcast I still go on to this day. They'll have 9 or 10 people in the room listening, and they don't want to be advertised. All right? Those are real patriots. All right? Because they don't want advertisement. They don't want me to blast it out there for people to see. It's me coming to them. If I had ulterior motives, I wouldn't waste my time on a small group when I can talk to hundreds of thousands of people who follow. So see, that's your discernment 101. That's discernment. Now, every man and woman, but especially ladies, because I've never had a guy look me in the eyes like that, and I don't want to. But out on the road, there's a photo someone took of me, and I'm looking at someone. You can tell by someone's eyes and their countenance what their motives are, what kind of person they are. All right, especially when you get into psychology and things like that. So again, all I'm doing is keeping an oath. All right, the right oath, the correct oath that has a foundation. And the foundation doesn't beat you up. It doesn't ostracize you for being Buddhist, atheist, whatever you are. All right, I personally don't care because I would never let anybody hurt you for it. You should come to God on your own 2 feet. If you're willing to live your whole life the way you are and die and stand in front of God, I think God honors that somehow. For somehow I think there's some kind of integrity in that. So I'm not here to beat you up on the way you live your life and none of those things. That's not what I do. What I do is show you, hey, you want to know what's going on? Well, there's a blueprint in place. That's what that means. He put that there. I didn't put that there. That was validation. He validated everything I talk about with that dash a year and 7 months before he ever became that. So that alone right there negates anybody out there saying that the dash is trash and it's clown and it don't mean what it means. It most certainly means what it means. These people are jealous because I have the intellectual property rights now forever on the whole blueprint. So see, what it did was it exposed their ulterior motives. See, now they have to walk a fine line. And everybody who was throwing people crumbs, now that everything is in a chronological, everything, now that it's all in one place, one item, one thing, it's like the Bible. Bible says you don't have to believe, but it's better not to believe than to know and to deny and walk forward. It's better not to know, so don't ever read it and then say, I don't believe it. Because everything in our life does have something in that word. Everything. There is not anything in life I've never encountered that is not found in the Bible somehow, some way. Now, again, we all fall short. We're human. We're not perfect. The Bible tells you that. It's not the point of it. It's not the point to beat up people. It ain't the point to walk around judging people and beating up people. Now, it ain't also being soft and pansy-like we've done with liberals out there. There's a checks and balances. Right? It's a time to be tough, resilient, tenacity, etc. But see, what I've done by you, the power of you, all of us, what it's done is the capability that God gave me to put it here, it's now alienated all the people who don't have good motives and intentions for you. They don't. They're holding you back. They're trying to, if they're using the same tactics that's been used against President Trump, against me or anybody else, how can you call yourself a President Trump supporter? How can you support a man who had all the lies, misinformation, false accusations, extortion, theft, you name it, mockery, ridicule, hatred, lawfare? How can you support that but do the same thing to others? You can't. That's your discernment, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason why those of you who follow me, you've seen what I've been talking about elsewhere, is because this person wants to all of a sudden talk about a third term, but they can't. And because they weren't doing right in the beginning, they didn't do right in the middle, they went to jail for it, they're exposed. Now, God can forgive them. President Trump can forgive them. But it goes back to, again, if you were doing right from the beginning, and if you were doing right in the middle, you'd have never gone to jail. Has Dan Scavino gone to jail? Has Tom Homan gone to jail? And they've been around President Trump the whole time? If they can do good, how come this person couldn't? Now, they can be forgiven. Again, that's between God and them, and that's between President Trump. If he wants to forgive them, whatever. But remember, a pardon doesn't mean that it erases what you did. A pardon also takes away your Fifth Amendment. So that means you got to do what? Tell the truth. Well, why weren't they telling the truth at the beginning? If they'd have been telling the truth in the beginning, and the middle, they wouldn't have to do what? Receive a pardon to where they'll tell the truth after the pardon if they'd have been doing right here, here, and here. So see, the little man, all of us little men and little women have made up something that they can't benefit from. So now we'll see if they're really about the people that Donald Trump, President Donald John Trump, is all about. Now we're going to find out if they're really about the people. Because if they're really about the people, they go, hey, this veteran, this retired veteran, this guy over here and his people of 1776 Nation and Rattletrap 1776, all of them together have empowered people in their communities. Well, first off, let's start off. Your friends, your families, your neighborhoods, your towns, your town halls, your cities. We have all empowered people. We have all empowered people by what? The blueprint of what President Trump is working with. So now we're going to find out. We'll find out, again, who's in it for the right reasons, because I hold all the intellectual property on the whole operation and blueprint, and there's nothing they can do about it. Not a thing. So now we're going to find out who the real patriots are on these bigger podcasts and these bigger platforms. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. That old saying, we're going to find out. What does President Trump say? F-A-F-O, right? Stuff my mama don't like, but I have to, I didn't say it. So is this where we do the Trump dance? Is this like where we do the Trump dance? Can you just pretend like da 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 da? Is this where we do the Trump dance? Young man, there's no need to get down. I said, young man. Because again, if you're doing right from the beginning, if you're doing right in the middle, you do unto others, mind your own business, clean up your own backyard, you wouldn't be having pardons. And you wouldn't be being mad and saying that this is trash and that's a clown face and everything. There's no way. There's no way you can support President Donald John Trump, the greatest president in the history of the world. There's no way. There's no way you can do it. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll be back on this week sometime because, things are getting fun, and also, it's just fun to talk. And I'll try to get back on this week a little bit before Sunday. I know that we do weekly Sundays, and I'll still try to do it next Sunday. No, I won't be able to. Well, maybe I can. I'll be in Orlando, Florida, somewhere in that vicinity. I will be posting that, by the way. I'll be posting about that. So be looking for that post. And it is public, so you can come there. And anyway, so I'll be there, and then also I'll be in Miami from May 1st to the 3rd. Laura Trump's supposed to be there, Charlie Ward, all kinds of people. Now, again, I'm gonna leave you with this. When I go places, when I show up wherever I am, I don't know what everybody else's intentions and motives are. So if you don't like a certain person or whatever it is, look, I'm there for the right reasons. When I go somewhere, my intentions and my motives are the people listening, because I bring receipts. And once I bring receipts, if those people go look up what you've looked up, they're going to be able to walk away and go, okay, that person, or that person don't talk like that. But once you realize what I talk about is what President Trump, his whole basis and premises are, the person who put this on wouldn't have me there if they didn't believe that. Because it would do what? It would annihilate everything that they stand for. All right, so you got to apply stuff like that. Because I've heard some negative comments out there, so I just want to go ahead and put that out there. What I bring to the table, I have the capacity, but I didn't write all this. I wrote this book in intellectual property the way I wrote it, but I didn't write the laws. I didn't pass the laws. So see, you got to separate the laws then and go, okay, I'll show you what President Trump's working with. That's been on the paper. That's why liberals can't point a finger and say, you can't do that. Well, why did you make it a law if he can't do that? That's how simple that is. Well, why is it on the law books if he can't enforce it? So see, there's that. So people who have me somewhere, if there was a new audience sitting there that's never heard me before, but's heard them before, think about it. Just apply it. Just think, let's say there's 1,000 people there that's never heard me. All right. And I walk in there and I say what I do and, outline what's going on. And let's say all 1,000 people, which wouldn't happen, but let's hypothetically say all 1,000 went home and goes, man, that one guy stood out. And they got the book and they started reading and studying what you've done. They're going, oh my gosh, this has been going on the whole time. This is an operation. Think about it. That would wipe out anybody who didn't say what I say and talk about what I talk about. So that's why you got to apply out there. Some people are still trying to apply your personal, maybe you don't like their personality. Some people don't like mine. But again, you got to be careful with the judgment out there. Because when you really apply that someone's letting me come speak at a major event at Trump Doral, which is immaculate. If you've never been to the Blue Monster, wow, you're talking about immaculate. That place is, and I think to rent that building, I'm not sure, but I've heard it's something like $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000. It's something up there. Like President Trump don't let just riffraff come in there. Like, you're gonna come in with an event, you're gonna come with it. That's to rent the place. That's not what you're gonna make back. You don't know it. So some people just, that whole stuff out there about, y'all making all this money doing, I'm not making any money. I'm not making any money. I'm not getting paid to speak. All right, at all. And don't want to, but I don't get paid to speak. So some people got to lose that mentality out there. Is if that's the case, no one would ever hear anything. If that's the case, God would have never given me a platform, because there was no way, come on, we're at 2 hours and 34 minutes. There was no way I could talk like this. Well, I might could. But there's no way, though, I could afford to go to every household every single day and lay out the blueprint plan. God gave me a platform. I don't abuse it. So I hope that people will start losing that mentality and start applying that. Look, when I walk into an event, I don't know what everybody else is there for, but I know what I'm there for. I know what my intent and motives are. Title 10, Section 502. I, Derek Jonhson, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I'm bearing that true faith. I'm showing that true faith in the allegiance. But I also know the foundation of which it started. Because my family's been here. Native American and also son of the Revolution and son of the Confederacy. My family's been here. I know how to fight, and I also know how to motivate you to fight the right way, the correct way, to empower you. That's what we're about. So, if you can't afford that place, I get it. Don't go. You ain't got to. You don't have to go there to hear me. Bingo. It's really a fellowship time. And it's an immaculate fellowship. You get to see Trump Doral. If you want to see it, well, guess what? I didn't make the cost to go there. So there you go. All right, so a lot of people have got to drop some of that mentality out there that I've seen still. Discernment 101. You know why neighborhoods have HOAs sometimes? I hate them personally, but you know why they have them? They keep riffraff out. But they've had to do that because what? Mentality like Californians and liberals. Because they don't want to be tough on whom? Criminals. All right, so when you're not tough on criminals, guess what builds up? Riffraff. And what? What are you seeing being cleaned out right now? Cartels, riffraff. Because we have what in charge? We have balls in charge. That's what we got. So,